back. We are in our final hour in Atlanta. Been an eventful day, and always great when we get to see Mike Griffith over here. We saw him a couple weeks ago when we were in Athens. And Mike, before we get to the game, there is some interesting news coming out of Athens tonight.
Yeah, Georgia trying to apply a contract. Damon Wilson was a guy who transferred from Georgia to Missouri, did one heck of a job for the Tigers. 9 sacks, 22 quarterback pressures. Georgia only had 17 as a team, nobody with more than 4. They really missed him. And what happened to Damon was he signed this contract in December 2024. He played in the bowl game against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl down there. And then he went in the portal and he left. Now, that portal was extended, so only the championship team players were eligible for the portal. So when he left, Georgia really couldn't dip into the portal in that winter portal and get another edge rusher. And, of course, the guys in the spring, you're not going to get anybody that's elite there. So when you look at the Georgia sack numbers this year, you got to take this into consideration. But on a bigger front that's going to affect all of college football, you're going to see a lot of these programs that have these collective contracts with players start to apply them and say to these guys, hey, we need to get you into court here. We need to arbitrate this. You owe us this amount of money now that you left. You need to fulfill your contract, because obviously when programs sign these contracts with players, they pay them. So it's got to be a two-way street, and I think you're going to see that applied a lot more in a lot of other cases across the country.
Interesting. Now, well, I mean, there's so many moments in college sports that we were in or at the tip of, but this sounds like a pretty important one.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been really busy on AJC.com. I had a Sunday with, 6 coaching changes? It was the domino effect, and we all knew it was coming, and yet it was still just so sensational to see one coach go after another coach, and you could see the pecking order.
Yeah.
This guy was going to go, well, now, Florida's jumped Auburn for this coach. Now Auburn's going to get Alex Golesh. Now Arkansas is going to get Silverfield. So really fascinating season. You wonder about the calendar, if they can maintain this calendar in terms of when can coaches leave. You have an early signing date. You have the playoffs going on. You have a later portal. When is the right time for this, and how will contracts be written? Will there be some stipulations that you have to finish a season to get a payment? And then we haven't even talked about the playoff yet. My goodness, it looks like we're going to see an expanded playoff. Will it be 16 teams? Could it be 24 with the play-in? John Gruden recently had a great take on this when he said, can you imagine in the NFL if you had the top 2 teams in the NFC and the top 2 teams in the AFC playing football games before the rest of the teams in the playoffs? You go, that doesn't make any sense. But here we are playing a championship game on Saturday while the rest of the teams that are going to be in the playoff essentially have a bye. So how do they fix this? And this is going to be interesting, and this is going to be up to Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti from the Big Ten to hash all of these things out, Paul.
Oh, Tony Petitti's still around? I haven't heard him do anything constructive in so long. I'm beginning to wonder.
Well, and part of the reason they want this expanded playoff in the Big Ten is they have a television contract with a different network that's not tapped in. If you get into these expanded playoffs with these play-in games, that's a lot more volume that could potentially make some money for another network. Obviously, it would certainly enhance the Big Ten's contract, and all you got to do is look at the ratings to see that everybody's tuned into ESPN and the SEC network and see that the top-rated games are in the SEC. So a lot of value for both of these conferences.
Let's talk a little bit about the story of the week, and it didn't really matter what else happened. Lane Kiffin dominated all. Just, you've been around him a long time. You've talked to him countless times. Just put into words these last couple of days.
Well, it was, no, I can't say those words. Let's call it a circus, Paul. Let's say that it was as much of a circus as we expected it would be with Lane Kiffin. I mean, look, there's no secret that Lane loves attention. Some people have used the word narcissist. I don't know if that's too strong. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not going to try to diagnose him. I did hear that he hasn't had a dog for a few years, though, and yet that's still on Twitter.
So Juice, I thought I met Juice a couple of years ago.
Was it the real Juice? I mean, I don't know. I can't keep up with it.
That's, to me, as a dog lover, maybe the worst thing I've heard, that Lane was propagating a fake dog.
Well, SEC Shorts did a pretty nice special, and I know a lot of people tune into those folks. But I kind of look at it like Lane Kiffin didn't feel like Ole Miss was big enough. And yet I take a look and I realize what Ole Miss did for him. The money was going to be the same. Yes, there's some bonuses in the LSU contract that would give him a higher ceiling. Okay, the stadium's bigger. But if you look at the programs right now, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin has built Ole Miss into just as powerful of a program as LSU as I sit here today. Now, you may say they have a higher ceiling. I will also tell you that that is a larger fishbowl, and that glass is much clearer. And I think that Lane Kiffin is going to be under a great deal of scrutiny, and I think there's going to be some tremendous expectations, whereas I feel like the Ole Miss folks, because he built the program, because he brought so much positive attention, I feel like that maybe he would have had a little bit more leeway with them. LSU signing up to get a national championship coach, and guess what? If Ed Orgeron could win one, and Les Miles can win one, and obviously Nick Saban, but guess what, Lane Kiffin? That's what you're signed up for, and if you don't have a national championship in 3 years, it's going to get real interesting.
Yeah, and if you don't believe that, I have Brian Kelly's cell phone number to ask him what it's like.
With a 70% winning percentage, it was Kirby Smart that said he'd worked there before. You borrow those offices. You don't get too comfortable. I mean, you're there as long as you win. So we know what the expectations are like. I was talking with Mark Richt the other day. He said, look, man, for everybody to meet the expectations, there'd have to be 10 championships a year. It's literally impossible. And now this playoff has shrunk it down where if you're not one of the 12, then it's a make or break year. I do think they need to expand it. I'd like to see it get more in line with college basketball, where you have a higher percentage of the teams involved. I like the idea, more volume. The question is, Paul, what do you do with the SEC championship game, the Big Ten championship game, the Big 12 championship, and whatever they're playing in the ACC, where there's a chance for a 7-5 team to screw this whole thing up.
I think it's I think that's the Mayonnaise Bowl. I can't remember what it was.
Things will go pretty sour fast for the ACC if Duke doesn't win.
The Duke's Mayo ACC Championship Bowl.
But I do think Miami has a very good chance of jumping Notre Dame when we look closely at the resume, and they're right next to each other side by side.
Second left, who's going to win tomorrow?
I like Georgia by a field goal. I think it's going to be real close. Both teams missing key players, but Kirby's got to get one of these sooner or later.
He really does.
He really does.
If he loses tomorrow, that's 0-3 against Kalen DeBoer?
It would be 0-3 against Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer 6-1 against top 10 teams. Kirby 25-10. These are two elite coaches.
Yeah, elite. Yes, right there.
Got it.
The Griff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We'll take a short break. 30 minutes remaining. Don't go anywhere.